So today we're talking about styling an entry, and I'll walk you through step by step. I think styling is something that people get really unsure about, and the number one thing that I see that people get wrong in their homes is typically scale and how to use scale and proportion. So we'll talk about that a little bit today. But when styling your entry, you always want to start with a focal point. So I'm going to be using this console that I've had for quite a few years now, and because I have it up against a window, I'm hanging artwork as my focal point in front of the window. Now you could also put a large easel here to hold it up, which I probably will do in the future. I just haven't done it yet. Another great piece that you can use as a focal point is a mirror. That way you can check yourself as you're headed out the door. Your guests can check themselves coming in and out. But always start with your focal point. And as you're adding things, make sure that you're being conscious of what you're adding. So when I say being conscious of it, that means thinking about the color palette of the entire space. Does it work? Thinking about scale that I mentioned before. Does it work? Is it too big? Is it too small? Are you playing with scale? Is it intentionally too big or too small? And just know the reasons why you're making your decisions, and that'll help guide you into a really good one. So we're starting here. I have this beach scene. It's a pretty neutral palette. It pulls in a little bit of blues, a little bit of greens. There's kind of these like terracotta tones and some browns, even a little bit of pink. So you'll see as I start to build on this that we're pulling some of those colors out. So after you have your focal point, you want to start with your foundational pieces. For an entry, a lamp is always a really good idea because as you're coming in the door, you can quickly flip it on to get light in the area. A very traditional way of styling is doing a lamp on either side and going for symmetry. I like a little bit of asymmetry, so let me grab my lamp and we'll talk a little bit about that. All right, let's talk about scale. This lamp, I'm purposefully trying to stand right next to it so that you can see just how massive it is. This is a behemoth of a lamp. It's from bottom to top of shade about 3 feet tall. So it's definitely a large, substantial piece. This is oversized. Most lamps aren't this size. So I'm kind of intentionally playing with scale here. It's a little bit bigger than someone might normally go. However, this is a very large console. It's very big. It's more than 5 feet wide. I'm not sure the exact measurement, but I want to make sure that I'm filling the space that I have appropriately. And if I went with a smaller lamp, we would end up with a lot of little things everywhere, and I'd like to keep it a little more simple than that. So for convenience coming in, I'm adding the lamp so that we have easy access to light. Now I need to balance it on this side. So balance and symmetry are two different things. Again, you could put a matching lamp, although I would go smaller in scale if I were doing matching lamps. Or you can put another large substantial object here that has the same visual weight as the first object that you added. So for here, I'm going to be adding this vase. It is large in size. It's probably about 15 inches tall, and it is substantial in of itself. And once you add the botanicals, you're getting a new texture, which we'll talk about here in a second. And you just grew this vase in size. You grew it in height and in width. As you're doing this, you want to make sure that you're paying attention not only to color, but also to texture. So on this lamp, we have a ceramic glaze, and so it has a sheen to it. This vase is matte. So there's no sheen, and it contrasts with this one, and the juxtaposition works really well. If you put everything on here with a shiny surface, it would fall a little bit flat. This is what gives it dimension and interest. We have such a huge lamp. I'm gonna balance this out even more with a complementary vase next to it. Again, the texture of this one, it is very rough. It kind of has like an earth and found look to it. And so that creates even more interest, and we get a little bit of depth with these darker spots that tie into some of the dark spots in our focal piece. So now after you have the whole thing grounded with your large pieces, you want to start adding in your accessories. And accessories can be a lot of things, but if you can make them functional and beautiful, then you're winning. So for here, we're gonna add a basket because nail and keys are things that accumulate in my entry. Every family is different. You may not need that. You may need a box because you keep more of like your mail key and stuff like that tucked away. It just depends on how you use your space. So for us, we have a basket. So after we get our basket, we still have a little bit of an empty space here. I'm an interior designer, so I love a good coffee table book. The key to coffee table books is, one, make sure they're things you're actually interested in. I have personally read every single one of my coffee table books, and honestly, probably more than once. So they are things that I actually like and enjoy. And then you also, as you add them, are still also thinking about the color palette and the texture. So I have quite a few of them here to play with. And I kind of just start with them out and think about, I look at my focal point, I look at what it's going to be living next to. This one's really great because it has like a rough linen texture. This one's also a great one. And you just kind of want to stack and play, and you might not get it right the first time. You might switch them out, and that's okay. But this is an opportunity to just kind of show off character in your home and the things that you're interested in. And I think I like that. Let me grab. So after you figure out kind of the color palette you want to go with, coffee table books are great for if you have like a grouping of small objects. Maybe you have a candle and some matches. This gives it a home to live on and keeps it grouped together so that it doesn't look cluttered. For in here, I just am going to use a decorative object, and you kind of just play with it until it feels right. Let's see. Put my basket back. It is looking good. I don't know that I love the black one here because it brings so much contrast. It's kind of where my eye's going. And there are other places I would like people to be looking other than my book. So we're gonna switch that one out and see. Yeah, that feels better. So here, like keeping it really neutral is what feels right to me. Don't be afraid to pull things from other parts of your house. I know that I do that. Things are constantly shuffling around throughout the house. Sometimes I shuffle my things out of houses, out of my house into a client's house. Sometimes they come back, sometimes they don't. So we're always evolving over here just because of the nature of my work. And I don't know, I never live with the same thing for too long. I'm always kind of switching it up, but shop what you have. I guarantee there's something in your house that's gonna work for you. Don't be afraid to really work with it. You might live with it for a day, decide it doesn't work for you, and decide to change it. The other thing I wanted to mention, as you're adding these objects, you want to pay attention to height. So we have our highest point, and there's nothing else sitting at that same exact level. We kind of have like steps down that keep your eye moving throughout the vignette. And so you want to think about, how do you keep someone's eye moving so that it doesn't just stop and then the rest of it be ignored? You want movement through it. That's, again, playing into how it's interesting. You in every room should have some kind of green, whether it's a tree, flowers in a vase, branches. These are faux branches, and that's fine too. And then sometimes when I go get fresh florals, I'll pull these out, put a fresh arrangement in, and when those perish, I'll switch it back out for this until I get more fresh florals.